I have a gavel, so I'll use it. Call to order the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission on this, the 13th day of July of 2021. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. Hopper?
Here.
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Mr. Moan?
Here.
Non-voting advisor, Mr. Alexander?
Here.
Thank you.
We have one. Is there a motion to approve our minutes from our June 8th meeting?
I'll motion that.
Mr. Harris?
Second.
Mr. Hoover. Any additions, corrections, deletions? All right, hearing none. What's the rule we're on here?
Yeah, you do not have to do roll call. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0. New business, Veris project, consideration of request for estoppel certificate.
Yes, I will be presenting on this. I probably could have just moved that onto my attorney report, but in the event, I received an email a few weeks ago advising that with regard to the Veris project, which is an incentive project that the RDC funded and entered into, that helped develop property just east of I-65 on Main Street on the north side of the road. And just in the last few months received a annual report on that project. They are now in the position to sell the property. They have a buyer that's proposed and has asked that the Redevelopment Commission provide an estoppel certificate that basically says that the agreement is in force and that there's no defaults, etc. And so I reviewed it, just handed out a tweaked version that makes some clarifications to it. And these clarifications were presented to the purchaser and they accepted those. So I would recommend that this estoppel certificate be approved by the Redevelopment Commission. Provide that. Any questions, I'm happy to.
Any questions for Mr. Watson?
The underlying blue is the correction.
That is correct. And what I have is the correct version, right?
Yeah, you have an executable version as well.
Any other questions?
And I'll just add that I did review the purchase agreement terms, and having gone through over the last 12 months or so, worked with the city on the closing requirements for the acquisition of the road. That has been completed. That was completed several months ago. And so from my standpoint, everything is in order. There are no existing defaults. And so I think it's perfectly appropriate to sign what has been presented to you.
Move we authorize the execution of the estoppel certificate as modified by Schultz.
Motion goes through, or is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Harris. Any further discussion from anybody? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. That motion is approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Old business, capital project report, Madison Avenue Streetscapes Improvement Phase 3.
Hello.
Hello.
Good thing about that project is hopefully it's almost done. It never stops raining. This is a revision to the PSA with Rundell Earthberger and GAI because they have to do some rework of engineering based on field conditions. A lot of the approach drives and chasing those back to get them at acceptable slopes. For those of you that are on grading projects for a while, we tend to rebuild the approaches and make them flush with the new road. And on North Madison, there were some challenging slopes and positions, but getting those back to match, and this was the engineering work that dealt with that. So $10,300 was the amount of money. Asked to amend that, PSA payable by the Fry Road, allocation area.
Any questions for Kevin?
Just one, the PSA references an Exhibit B, additional services, and,
I forgot to attach it.
yeah,
I'll get it added.
There's not much to this one. It literally just mentions what is in the, or largely describes the Madison Drive additions and the construction administration that had to do. Anyway, yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there a motion to approve?
We'll make that motion.
Mr. Campbell, is there a second? Second. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0. Financial report, monthly financial report.
Did everyone receive it? Mr. Stone's not gonna make it.
No worries. I think we did. I know it's in our SharePoint, so I think he emailed it too, so. Consideration of our 2022 general fund budget. Anybody have any questions about that? It's the same as what we had for last year. I think the only thing maybe Mr. Campbell had mentioned is taking out monies for those of us who don't get monies for being up here, but I suppose you never know what could happen next year. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris, is there a second? Second. By Mr. Bell. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0. Moving right along, department reports, Mr. Hodson. Anything, sir?
Nothing.
All right, thanks, sir. Mr. Watson, anything else?
Nothing further today.
Thank you. Mr. Wright?
Nothing for me.
All right. Mr. Johnston? Oh. Mr. Young?
Good afternoon. Todd Peony with the engineering division. I'm here with what I believe is two minor items. The first one for Worthville Road, Section 2, just to let you know that it is the letting for that project occurs tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll get the results. I don't know if that'll happen later tomorrow or maybe the first thing Thursday. And once we do, I'm sure there'll be an email that goes out.
Hey, Paul, what section, I know it's section 2. Can you describe or just refresh me what section 2 is?
Section 2 is the portion between Hayward Road and Honey Creek Road.
Okay.
Section 3 is the one that's under construction now,
Right,
with
okay.
the roundabout at Hayward.
Right.
And then this will go to Honey Creek with the roundabout at Honey Creek.
Gotcha, okay.
This will include the roundabout at or Honey Creek and Stones
Yes.
Crossing?
Yes,
Good.
that section will, so,
Curve.
yeah, I'm gonna do new alignment.
You guys still plan to take that curve across Greenwood Christian Academy's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the right of way we've had in place, I think, probably 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Planning for this, so yes, it will take that new route.
And you,
As I understand, they've made alternate plans for athletic facilities and everything, so.
Yeah, they're moving.
move into the community church agreement down in place. But nonetheless, you've notified, you guys notify those folks that this is coming down the pike and the Greenwood Christian Academy and anybody else that might be affected along it.
Yeah, Daniel's definitely been more involved with this than I have, but yes, there have been discussions with those parcels, those property owners, that this is nearing the time that construction will be taking place. So,
I think we recently, didn't we just purchase some additional right-of-way from Greenwood Christian? Was that, maybe not, I was thinking it was though.
No, you're correct. You did. When they did the final tracings, they needed a little bit more. Part of it dealt with stormwater. So they're very involved because we just had to buy a little more land from them in the past. It was during virtual meetings, but last year we bought 2 more additional meetings because when they added the stormwater ponds ones and that just,
Oh, yeah, that.
one of them was
yeah,
a construction,
Right.
was an only during
Very
construction.
minor
Yeah.
easements, yeah, use their pond, that's right.
Yes.
I thought they had, so I figured that knew something was coming.
Right, yeah, they work with us on that.
I know they have a fairly new headmaster. He's been there maybe a year or so. I always like to make sure they're fully aware of everything. Thank you, Paul.
Sure. And then the second and final item I have is Horseville Road, Section 1. And this would be the last section to complete between Griffith Road on the east side, all the way through US 31, and then over to State Road 135. And we'd like to move forward with some initial design, 30% design for that final section between Honey Creek Road and State Road 135. And so we're asking the commission to approve moving forward with that design with CHA Consultants. And since this is a contract that's around $285,000, it's my understanding it has to go to 2 meetings to seek approval. So this would be the first of those 2 meetings, with Daniel coming back next month to request this same item again. So I don't know if you have any questions on that.
That we did not get anything on, so.
I'll follow up with Daniel, or do you have a scope from?
Well,
CHA?
he did give me something here. It's 30% plans, which includes the topographic survey. It defines the limits of the curbs, the sidewalks, any pathways that might be constructed along that area. Some preliminary hydraulics to try to determine maybe where the stormwater detention would take place. And then it'll also give us an idea on the possible right-of-way acquisition that would be required. So it gets us pretty far along to know what the alignment would look like and what might be required as far as right-of-way. I apologize, I didn't get you anything.
That's all right.
So look at it there. So this is new for me, being here for the first of 2 meetings, so I don't know if we're just asking for approval through this first reading or first meeting.
It's actually just an introduction. There's no action that is typically required or asked for on their.
And I believe the money's been discussed with the finance department. I believe there's money in place to fund this for this first phase.
Yeah, I think we're gonna use the Southwest, it should have enough to cover this part of it.
Yeah, the amount is $284,900. It is a joint venture between CHA and USI to do this work. I think USI is more on the survey side of things, with CHA being more on the design side.
I do have a request if, sometime before our next meeting, we could get copies of the paperwork on that, that'd be great.
Sure.
I know Mr. Campbell and I have had many discussions with the folks on, that live there at Stones Crossing and Honey Creek on what this is gonna look like, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to an area that has,
Keep us in the loop on what's happening over there, we'd appreciate it.
so that's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from the mayor's office? July claims docket in the amount of $506,732.51. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the claims as presented.
Mr. Hoover, is there a second? Second by Mr. Bell. Any questions, discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0. Anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss before us today? Hearing none, we will stand adjourned at 4:45. Hopefully, we got everything done we needed to. That's how you run a meeting right there, Mr. Campbell, just in case you were curious.